My name is Lori Levi. I'm from Canton, Michigan, and I've been a Trump vendor for way back, ever since 2015. We were at his very first rally in Michigan, and then Iowa, and then it's just kind of expanded from there. We arrived at the location where this rally was going to be Friday morning, as we always come in a day early to check up, and then a lot of times we have a vendor liaison who coordinates where we can set up as far as our tents, tables, so on and so forth. So when we got there early on Friday, we drove into the main entrance and we seen where the Megatrons were. And then it was like
By this point, how many rallies had you been to?
probably all but 10 of Trump's rallies. So you'd have to go back and look at that list from 2015. Hundreds, 140, 150. I've lost count by now.
And
I've
in
been
most
in
of
most
those,
states.
you were a vendor, so I
A
mean,
vendor, a
yeah.
merchandise vendor, and I'm a Trump donor. And I also supply Republican offices around the country with high quality merchandise so that they can be supporting and raising money in order to help get out the vote efforts, help support their local candidates. It's not just about money for me. We've got to get the right people in office. This all started back in 2010 when I ran for office because it was so crazy. And
So
in
typically,
Michigan.
you would show up the night before and get set up.
The day before, sometimes we would go into the town a day or two early so that we could do roadsides where we could just set up on the side of the road because people are excited. And especially a little town like this, it's a big deal that the president is coming to their town. And then so when we pulled into this driveway and seen where they were setting up the Megatrons, I was like, this doesn't look right. And my sister, we call her Donna, she says, what do you mean? I said, something's not right here. This cannot be where they're having him speak. They can't protect him from here. And she's like, well, they will, Secret Service will take care of this. And I just had this terrible feeling. And then
What was your gut telling you? Like,
that just something was off. But what normally happens, sometimes we get there early and everything's not completed. So in gosh, I can't even think, I'm trying to think of the locations that we've been to that had a line of sight. I remember we were in this big, huge field one time. I want to say it was in Georgia. And they had all of us that had trailers and trucks and big things kind of layer to create a line of sight. And
so by line of sight, you mean
that he is protected from any line of sight. Like, say, if I'm trying to look at that thing over there, I should not be able to see it directly. Same thing, line of sight. I also work church security at our church in Plymouth, Michigan. So those things I pay attention to. I see those, where a lot of times some people wouldn't. It's something we always have to look at. And when you looked at where the rally was with the two monitors, the chairs in the middle, I was thinking maybe this was like some kind of VIP, just meet and greet or something, that he wouldn't actually be speaking from there. And then, so, we just went about our business, and I just kept saying, something's not right. Where are the tow trucks, the dump trucks? Usually they'll bring in a lot of places, they brought in big gravel trains, road construction, big, heavy trucks that if somebody did try to get a shot off, there's one, you're not going to have a direct line of sight, but two, you're going to have a darn near impenetrable barrier, we owned a sand and gravel company for years. Those trucks, those boxes are impenetrable. I mean, you're not going to get even a 223 rounds, you're not going to penetrate those, what I would guess. So we just went to where our liaison was. We had a team meeting. Okay, this is what we're going to do in this event. And I even said to him, I said, something's not right with this rally. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, are they just not done? He's like, I don't know, because he works a lot with the campaign directly. And I said, something isn't right how this is set up. They can't protect him from here. And he's like, well, that's above our pay grade. And Secret Service ain't going to even consider listening to a word we have to say, which is, I get it. But after, when I heard the shots, I was walking down Bender Road, just looking to see, who has new stuff out. We kind of do that. And a lot of us are friends. We're associates, we're competitors, but we're also friends. So a lot of times we'll just go talk, and when the rally starts, it obviously our business kind of we have a lull. So because everybody's either at the rally or we call it the 4 o'clock rush. Everybody's rushing to get there. They're not going to stop and buy merchandise. So during that time, I was just wandering and I heard the shots. And knowing, like, having a security background, I knew it was shots, not fireworks. And I was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So I kind of ran back to my trailer, and Donna had RSBN app open, and she was watching it. And it's like the president's been shot, and then from there, your mind just goes crazy. But the first thing I thought of when I heard that is I knew it. Something was wrong here. Something was amiss. Secret Service doesn't make mistakes like this. They just don't.
How many shots did you hear?
I heard 4 to 5 from where I was at.
Could you tell where they were coming from?
Oh, I could tell they were coming from over where he was, for sure. Because, where I was walking this way, and we were on the other side. If you look at the aerial picture, all of the vendors were adjacent or parallel to the runway. And then where they had him was across behind some buildings in this other area. But it was just odd that it was that close to a fence line with other buildings, which that's not unusual at times. But if you're that close to those buildings, they would have snipers and police over there at those buildings. They wouldn't have let general people access that area. So I just find it absolutely unfathomable that this 20-year-old kid did this on his own. I believe he was used as a patsy and somehow talked him into whatever, it's just a 20-year-old kid is not smarter than Secret Service. And I've never seen them make a mistake like this before. I don't think they make mistakes. I just don't.
How many, at a normal rally, how many sniper teams would you typically see?
It depends on the location. All of them are different. Sometimes we don't see them at all. That doesn't mean they're not there, because you're not really supposed to see them too much. But there was the ones on the roof. And I found that too. I don't know how many angles of that video that you've seen. It looked to me like they let him get the shot off before they fired back. And that's, my personal opinion. I don't have any, I can't say one way or the other, but that's what it appears like to me. But the whole thing they're talking about, different things you're hearing on the media is like, how could they make this mistake? They don't make mistakes like this. Any one of the campaign staffers or Secret Service would have been up on that stage prior to President Trump getting up there. And then they would have seen, they do their scan, they would have seen, wait a minute, there's a direct line of sight. We need something here blocking the road, blocking the path. And that's just where I just can't believe that this was an accident.
From being at so many rallies before, how far out is the perimeter where people have to go through security?
Usually pretty significant. Like the last one we did, you had, from where we were at, you had to, it was like a orchard. They had to walk a long way. You're talking a half a mile or more from when they kind of entered. And then they have there's usually security, and then we have a huge area for people to line up. If we're in a city street, if we're like in a downtown like we were in Wisconsin, that one was a little tighter, but there usually is a good amount of space between where they go through security and where the president is. And I've just never seen one with an open line of sight like this. So I just assumed they were going to bring in the dump trucks, and the gravel, and like they've done in the past. And when we didn't go back over there the next day, once we were set up, because we had to drop the trailer and we went about our business. So when we came back the next day, we had to come in the back entrance. So we never got to see that they didn't, because if I would have went that way, I would have said something. Not that they would have listened to me, but there's just the whole thing that just does not feel right.
The perimeter, do you think somebody could have gotten the gun past security?
No, I don't.
Do you think that building that he shot from, would the normal perimeter have been would that building have been within the perimeter? Does that make sense?
Not normally. I wouldn't have thought it would have been that close. We would have thought they would have had him in the airfield, over by the airfield, because that you had a huge amount of room. There was buildings over there too, but they were easily blockable. with, planes or trucks or, now they might not want to tear up the airfield, the grass, I don't know, but they had us on the grass. So the whole thing just feels off, and the saddest thing is like when I pulled in on Friday and I said that, I was like, I even said that to a couple people and then to my coordinator, and he said, that's above our pay grade. Secret Service ain't going to listen to us, which of course they wouldn't. So the whole thing just felt off.
Who was your liaison?
Um, he, I couldn't get a hold of him to share his information because I know he's working at the RNC today. So I'd rather not share that without his permission.
Sure.
But if I talk to him, I called him and I got no answer, but he's at the RNC today. But there's other vendors there that felt that this was a weird setup. What I'd like to do is find out how it was set up 4 or 5 years ago when he was there. I wasn't at that one. Would have been one of the ones that I've missed. But other vendors had told me that they worked that one rally before, and there's 55, 60,000 people there. But I don't know how it was set up. As far as, it would be interesting to see if it was set up the same, or if it was set up the same, that would maybe give me a little less feeling that this was intentional. If it was set up differently, then so that's something, I'm sure with your guys' research you can figure that out.
Thanks, Lori.
Real quick.
Uh-huh.
Where were you may have already said this. Where were you and all the other merchandisers set up geographically?
We were on the opposite side, so where the stage was like over here, we were parallel to the airfield. So there was a couple buildings in between us, so people had to walk by us, then go through this gate and go to the right. So then they had to go further north to the next set of roads over there. So if you look at the aerial photo, you can pretty well see where we were. So we couldn't see the crowd or him from where we were. But we were just shocked that that whole area was so small. But then they must have used the whole surrounding area that was on the other side of the buildings from us. Like I said, it was, it just felt off from the beginning. So now we know why.